Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from inkybutterfly.wordpress.com. Thank you very much for joining me again today for another card making tutorial. And we're making a variation of this card today, which I think turned out really super pretty. I'm using the Lots of Heart stamp set, and they're coordinating many hearts dies. These are a retiring set, which is a real pity, but they are sadly retiring. So do look out for those in the online store and get those before they disappear. Okay, the card was actually inspired because there's another colour challenge that I picked up on floating around on Facebook. So this is for the Stampin' Up colour challenge, Stampin' Up group, or Facebook group rather. So that was to use Bermuda Bay, Sahara Sand and Crumb Cake with basic black. Okay, so that's what I came up with. So I think it turned out really well. So I'm just going to pop that over there just so that I've got it for reference. So in these colour challenge styles, I like to give you different ways of using the same colours to create the same card. So I've gone with a Bermuda Bay card base this time. Bermuda Bay is one of my favourite colours, so it's really nice to have that on the front. I'm going to stick with my my black and white mini layer on there. So my mini layers are an inch shorter and narrower than the my usual ones, so that's ready to go there. And in fact, because we're not stamping on that, I'm gonna get those stuck together right now so that that's done. It's not stamping on that at all, and in fact we're not stamping onto the actual card base itself, so we can get that stuck down too. And then it's just a case of getting our decorative elements made and done to add onto the top. Okay, so that's our card base. Alright, so it's going to be a bit more, I don't know, I think the Bermuda Bay card base is going to be more impactful, but I say I'm changing things up for the heart. So let's just see how we do with this. So the heart, the little black outline uses this die here, so we can get that cut through with some black cardstock. So I'm just going to put that on the plate ready, because I hopefully I can do a bit of die cutting all at the same time. And I'm going to do the little decorative bit in Sahara Sand. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get those two die cut right now on that plate, and then they're done too. So just whacking those through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss, which I totally love. So by using the larger machine, I can get more than one thing die cut at a time. You just don't want to ever overlap your dies. That is the one way that you will damage them. So that die gives you this cute outline, and it gives you a spare heart to use for something else. And then we've got this one. Oh, it moved in the die cut machine. Right, I'm just going to have to recut that one, because that one is it's moved slightly as we've gone through, because I was being naughty and I didn't tape it down. So I'll just cut another piece of cardstock and get that done. So I've just run that through with another piece of cardstock just to recut that, and it's come out beautifully. That was just me being careless, really. The die has just sort of moved during the cutting process and ended up with double cuts. So that's now done, and we just need to just pull out those little bits. So you can usually take your pick tool, but these ones are actually quite large. They'll easily pull out with your fingers. Not too difficult to do. Okay, so those elements are there and ready to be done. Just need to scrape away these little bits, and then we just want to stamp our heart and get that die cut too. So I'm going to use crumb cake for that. So we're going to have a bit of a sort of tone on tone look, a different look for the heart. I'm still going to use this check one though. There's another heart that we could use with the sort of loopy pattern on it. But I think this one's quite nice, and I think it's almost a bit on the masculine side, almost these colours. So I think you could probably get away with giving this to a guy as well. Okay, so the two-tone effect hasn't come through very well on that. Okay, let's, this is going well, isn't it? Got another piece of, I'll bring in another piece of cardstock. Sometimes with the distinctive inks, distinctive stamps rather, the definition can be hard to pull out if you've got a really moist ink pad. So I'm going to ink it up with a sponge dauber instead. Which will just take off a bit of that excess ink, because what's happened is that the ink pad's so well inked, it goes into the detail parts of the stamp, and they don't come out as well. So if you use a dauber, sometimes you get a better look. Okay, alright, still not quite as I'd want it. Came out alright with the Big Needed Bay, I thought. So I'm just going to use the residual ink on there now. See if we can get that definition coming through a little better. There we go, that's better. There we go, perseverance will out. Okay, so that's a tip for you. That is just purely because the ink pads are just so well inked, and it's not an ink pad I use a lot, so it's still quite wet. So that's a top tip if you're having that issue. Just say apply the ink with a dauber instead, and you'll just get that lighter coverage. Okay, right, we are going to die cut this now with the coordinating dies. So there's a whole heap of dies in there, and just and then this one will cut out this heart. And so tape it into place, and it will cut that out, and we shall run that through the machine. Won't matter if it moves slightly, this one, because the we're going to put that little black layer over the top, which will cover up any slight misalignments anyway. But it's turned out beautifully. Put that die to one side, tape to one side, and we're just going to put a little bit of wet glue on the back of this little piece. And that's going to be probably way too much, so spread that out with the nib there. You don't need a lot. It's really strong, this stuff. You can apply it with a sponge if you prefer. I've done that a few times on videos. You may have seen me do that. So this will fit around the edge of this heart. So just position that carefully around there. and the wet glue just gives you a couple of moments just to get that positioning right. Now if you're like me and you don't like the fact that there's a white sort of core around the edge there, you can take a black Stampin' Up marker and just go around the edge of that die cut, and that will just hide that cut layer. It's quite effective when you're dealing with that kind of thing. Just take it round the front a little bit, and then that hides any little pieces of white that might be peeking out. Okay, just want to go steady, because otherwise if you slip you might end up drawing on the front of your image. Okay, so that's one way to disguise the white edge if that bothers you. And then that's going to go onto our decorative heart with some dimensionals. So 3 dimensionals fit on there quite nicely. A little triangle, so we'll get those on. Oops. If you want to use some wet glue to help you just make sure that they're all lined up, then do so. And I am going to use a bit of wet glue to make sure that this is in the right position on my card. So I'll bring in the card front now, Bermuda Bay. And we can press that into place. And we just need to add the sentiment now, which we are going to do with, in fact, actually, do you know what? Let's use Bermuda Bay ink. Let's bring it in the sentiment too. Alright, so I'm going to bring that in, and I've got the little tiny thank you that's in the same set, and a little scrap of cardstock here, because this is rather skinny, so we're going to stamp it along this straight edge of this cardstock. And then we will trim it down. On my sample it worked out to be about 3/8 of an inch. If you want it really skinny, if you want it a little chunkier, then you could probably go to 1/4 of an inch. So it's not really super straight either, but that's alright. It's one of them cards today. This hasn't gone quite as planned on many levels. So 1/4 of an inch is, yes, I've stamped it a bit higher up on the little piece of paper, so we've got a bit of a chunkier sentiment than we have on the original, which is fine. It's handmade. I'm going to take the edge of that nice and close, and then if you just cut that off at an angle, it just gives it a bit of another quirky look on there. And again, I'm just going to add that on over the top there with a bit of wet glue. So you can position that as you want, preferably straight. If you want to put a dimensional underneath the end, you can. Just thought it might show a little bit with all the other bits that are going on. Okay, I do like it. I still prefer this one, I think, but we got there in the end. Oh man, oh dear. Sometimes the more prepared I am, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to come together for whatever reason. So there we are. We have got there. I quite like both of those cards. I hope you found the tip about the distinctive images helpful. Just something to bear in mind. Using the same colours in slightly different ways, just to create a different look on the card. Okay, no, I haven't bothered with any extra bling, but I don't think it needs it. As always, all the products are linked in the description bar below. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. Stay safe out there. Bye.